when we were first getting me, you want to get the picture.
Oakley Farris. I live in Covington, Kentucky. Wonderful city. I had a pretty lousy upbringing. We were so poor, I didn't know it until some little jerk told me when I was 12 years old. Killed me, broke my heart. I was born in a little hamlet called Gray, Kentucky. It's between Barbourville and Corbin, Kentucky.
You want some light on it. That was when Oakley was 3 years old and his sister was 2 years old. They had the same birthday years ago when I was a little boy, and the photographer would take a picture, put a black shroud over his head, and said to the kids, "Watch for the birdie. Look at me. I'm watching for that birdie."
I guess it was the first house I remember living in. It was a frame building. We're all cut lumber. I know that now, but I didn't then. The only heat we had was a big stove in the center of the house. And when we had to go to the bathroom, my goodness, we went outside. Then from Barbourville, we moved to Corbin. Then from Corbin, went to Lexington when I was, I think, 11 years old. I grew up in Lexington, and from high school, I immediately joined the Army. And I was rejected. As a child, I had diphtheria, and it affected my heart. As a matter of fact, it still does. And I was told I could go home. I said, "I'm not going home." Probably did one of my best selling jobs at that time in Fort Thomas, Kentucky, because I was accepted. About a year later, we were in Belgium. Oh my God, it was so cold. And I became ill, sent back to the hospital in a room. It wasn't a hospital, a huge tent. And this doctor was a major. He must have been from New York State, the way he talked. Big, tall guy, and at that point in time, I was stripped naked and weighed 118 pounds. He looked down at me, folded his arm, and said, "How in the hell did you get in the Army?" I did not tell him, because I would have been on my way back to Lexington.
This picture, Oakley was 19 in the Army, and sister was 17. I must say, my sister was a beautiful woman.
I was always hungry, not necessarily for food. I was hungry. I had to do something. I was able to buy cartons of candy, 24 bars to a box, for 70 cents. Sold them for a nickel a piece, and made 50 cents on a box. I took those candy bars down to Lexington. It wasn't too far from where we lived, and went to the warehouses, tobacco warehouses, and I would sell them to the guys that were stacking the tobacco, a nickel a piece. Did very well indeed. Then I got big ideas. I had heard there was another tobacco place called a Reed Dryer, huge building. So this day after school, I decided I'm gonna go there. So I tried all the doors around the building, couldn't get in. One door open. I went in, and a big tall fellow said, "Get out!" Just like that. Before I left, I handed him a bar of candy. Next day, I went to the same door, it was open. The guy was there, I stuck a candy in his hand. He said, "Oh, go on." So I did very well in there. I stayed in this hotel called the Roberts Hotel, small hotel, right downtown Miami. The lobby was absolutely packed. Eva and her sister, I saw them in the lobby, dressed in black, I found out later that they had lost their father and Eva's sister's brother within a short period of time, and they were still dressed in black. So I was trying to put them, I was eyeing my Eva. I was trying to make eye contact because I didn't speak Spanish, she didn't speak English. The man who saw what I was doing, she crooked her finger. I went over to her desk. She said, "Kid, you're wasting your time. So these are not people like us. You have to be formally introduced." I said, "Introduce me." That's how I met my wife. This is a very interesting story. They got the cell phone number of a lady who was involved in creating those murals. So I called her one day and I said, "I'm interested in your murals, but I want a discount." They were $35,000 each. And I waited and she finally got in touch with me and she said, "I'm so sorry, I just can't cut the price." I said, "I'm so impressed with you, I'm going to take 2 of them, okay?" Now this one mural that shows the rolling bridge, shows the piers before the bridge, and it shows all these soldiers going across, and I believe it's the lower right-hand corner. You'll notice that very attractive lady in green. That's my wife. Now, this is interesting. Sometime later, my wife and her friend were looking at the murals, and there was a large group of people looking at the murals. And when they got close to this mural we were referring to, I found that they were in New York State, and the lady in charge, big raw-boned man, she was a big sucker. So I looked up at her, tapped her on the shoulder, and I said, "Ma'am, this is right out of the blue. Do you believe in reincarnation?" Her answer was, And I said, "Ma'am, if I can prove it, will you believe it?" Not quite as loud. So I put my 2 fingers on her shoulder, turned her towards the mural, said, "Look at the lady in green." Then I turned her back towards my wife. She said, "That's that woman." I said, "Yes, ma'am, she came back." Okay. But anyway, the lady's name that I was working with was Tracy Griffith. Wonderful lady. I'm hung up on education. The year 2000, we had done very well in this world, and I had $1 million that I could do what I wanted to with. So, Governor Patton at that time was the governor of Kentucky. And I had a friend get in touch with his office, and then somebody from Governor Patton's office called me one day, and I found out later it was the governor's first cousin. And I said, "Honey, you come to Covington, I'll take you for lunch, but you'll have to pick me up. I don't drive." Fine. We go to the Syndicate, at that time it was a really popular place in Newport. So after quite some time, I said to this lady, "Honey, I have a friend who wishes to remain anonymous that will put up $1 million for this program." I'm explaining to her, if the state of Kentucky will match it. They did, and we call it the Oakley Farris Education Endowment at Northern Kentucky University. It's called the business. First year, nothing happened. That $1 million was generating income. Second year, from that inception until June the 30th of last year, that $2 million was worth, just keep that in your mind, 3 million plus. Unbelievable. I have a vivid imagination. My mind's always working, because probably it's so short or lack of gray matter. But anyway, I came up with another idea. We were already vested in the College of Informatics. I thought, what if we take this $1 million and start another Oakley Farris scholarship in the College of Informatics? The public library in Covington had a contest on the young Lincoln statue. Nobody apparently went to the effort to get money to create that statue. So I heard about this and I invited that guy to breakfast over at First Watch. I said, I have a friend who wishes to remain anonymous, is interested in your statue. But I must tell you, he's very, very tight with his money. And here's what he'll give. The guy said, I can't accept this, I have to discuss it with my wife. I said, no problem, take it or don't take it, it's fine. He came back a couple weeks later, he called me, have breakfast again. He said, we'll accept your offer, fine. And I said, buddy, I'm going to make you famous in Greater Cincinnati. And believe me, I think we have. I just think that Carnegie, have you seen the Carnegie statue in front of the Carnegie? I became involved in the Carnegie. I remember the first money I gave was $5,000. The Carnegie sent some lady to talk to me. I knew her very well, and I just brushed her off. I'm not interested. And then the lady that was the president of the Carnegie board got in touch with me one day. She was like me. She don't take no for an answer. Very persistent. And since that time, we've got a little under $1 million invested in the Carnegie. I have all the figures if anybody's interested in verifying it. Something I learned early on was when you're turned down on something you're asking for or that you want, don't be bitter. Don't show how you feel. Smile and say thank you. I'm going to give you a perfect example. In one of these tobacco warehouses, when I was peddling my candy, this well-dressed couple, to me they were older people, that lady had a beautiful, beautiful coat. Oh my goodness. I didn't know what a mink was at the time, but I'm sure it was a mink. So I asked, "Were you going to buy candy?" "No." "Fine." I said, "Well, thank you very much," and gave him a big smile. A few moments later, the lady said, "Little boy, come here." So she said, "I really didn't want the candy, but I'm going to buy a bar from you. But I just loved your smile." Bingo. And I've been using that technique for all these years. It works.